Andrew Henderson versus James Locke. Would you have beaten him?
Yeah, I would beat him easily. I won that fight already because psychologically I broke him down. He looks like a big man, but he's a small child. That's the reality of it. He's like a bully. There was one moment where I saw that it was done. We had a press conference. He said, "Look at me in the eyes. I'll knock you out. I got heavy hands." And I go, "I'm looking you in the eyes. You may have heavy hands, but I'll find a way in. When I find a way in, you're done." I saw him break. He couldn't look at me from that moment onwards. The rest of the night, he was scared of me.
My next guest on the Stephen Sulley study isn't your normal athlete. He's a 5-time world champion as a freestyle footballer. I wanted to find out how he amassed this huge following, how he gets endorsed by big brands around the world, including Nike. In actual fact, as a freestyle footballer, he has impressed the likes of Ronaldo, Messi, Neymar Jr. and Harry Kane. You've got to have some skill to impress these guys. I also wanted to talk to him about the transition between football and MMA, fighting. Andrew confirms to me after he's done and dusted with the freestyle world, he's going to take on MMA superstars. Really good podcast, great gentleman, be happy, never content. Hello mate. Hi mate. How are you? Yeah, you too. Right, I've got a sensational guest in front of me. Andrew, I've been trying to pin you down for some time, and actually I've been following your journey for longer than you actually probably appreciate. I've always admired what you do, not just because of your skills. I just think the way you come across, and actually you come across as a go-getter, venturing into new sectors and put yourself under challenges, setting new goals. You seem like a person that is not content with just where you are right now, and you've achieved some amazing stuff. So anyway, we're going to have a great conversation. Thank you for your time and welcome to the Woodbury House studio.
No, thank you. Yeah.
Right, so you're here at Woodbury House, Soho, London. I gave you a bit of a sales presentation about the Godfather street art, Richard Hamilton. I always like to ask my guests, what's your first impression of the artist and his artwork?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to art, but I can appreciate definitely this artwork. It's sensational, and you're telling me a bit of the history about it and the link to Banksy and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's pretty impressive, man, I have to say.
Thank you very much. What I love, and what I think most entrepreneurs, most young people, in actual fact most people around the world appreciate, is a story where someone's gone through hardship, they got through it, and they go on to become wildly successful. And you're definitely that. And I'll tell you what I'm referencing. 2008, you broke your leg in a rugby game. I heard you were a pretty good rugby player. You was also into many different sports, and doctors actually said that you may never play sports again. And now look at you today. I mean, you're 5-time current world champion for freestyle football, MMA fighter. There's obviously other scope for you to be fighting in the future. Yeah. This is how I actually got connected to you as well, through Dan Morley. So shout out to Dan Morley, one of my former podcast guests and my sparring partners. Talk to me about that. The moment they said to you, look, this break, you may never play sport again. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, well, actually, it was kind of a weird one because I was playing for a team down in Cornwall. And I've been playing for a good few years, I think like 7 or 8 years, maybe even more. And I just recently switched to another club. And then I played against the club that I used to play for in a cup match. So it was quite like a competitive game. And I was really fired up for it. First play of the game, the kickoff, the ball got kicked up into the air, caught it. It was just like, I'm running through everyone. I'm going to smash everyone. Just run up the sideline. I'm like, I'm just going to bash through everyone. Like, I was just in that crazy mindset. And then I just like twisted in the ground. It was like a bit of a waterlogged pitch on the side. So my foot stuck in the ground. When I went to turn, it just stayed in one place. And then it was like a cascade reaction, just broke it multiple times through both bones in the leg, the big bones in the leg, the tibia and fibula. Dislocated the ankle as well. Got a metal plate and 9 screws put in there. And
which is still in your leg today?
Still in my leg today, yeah. So that was 2008. And they didn't even just tell me that I might not play sport again. They told me like there's a good chance you might not be able to walk properly with that leg again. And the reason was because it took so long to operate. They had to do multiple operations. I got like 3 different operations on it. So I broke it pretty badly. And sport was everything to me. That was like the only thing that I loved like so much in my life. So I played like every sport. I did a lot of athletics, played a lot of football, of course. And just started doing a bit of the freestyle tricks, but it was kind of more for fun. I took the rugby more seriously. I was even playing like table tennis. I was just very obsessed with all different sports. So to have that being taken away, or like potentially taken away, and when the doctors told me like, you know, you might not be able to play sport, well, yeah, it was pretty crushing at the age of 16.
I can imagine. So like having the injury, kind of life-changing injury could have been anyway, and then having professionals, doctors, because normally when you hear it from a doctor, you're like, oh, this is kind of like gospel. This is over almost.
Yeah.
Would you say where you are now, actually, because of what happened, what was said to you by doctors, that's actually factored into why you've become a 5-time world champion freestyler?
Yeah, definitely. I think just knowing that I've come through that adversity and just having that mindset of like, I'm going to make a comeback, and it just happens day by day. You know, some days you feel down, some days you don't, but just trying to get back up on my feet. And I think the link with freestyle there is I was doing it whilst my leg was in its cast. So I had the cast on my leg, I'm on the meds, and I'm trying to balance the ball in my head, trying to balance on the side of my head. And it actually gave me something to focus on during a really difficult time. I think just having something to focus on that you're going to try and progress in, if you're not sure what you want to do or whatever, that's going to help you get back on your feet and follow, you know, a path to success, you know, and you might not always know what you're going to achieve in the end, but just having something to focus on is a big thing. So yeah, when I got back to full fitness, freestyle at that time just was a hobby to me. But I always was going to play sport, whether it was football or rugby. I was going to be a professional athlete. That was for sure. Yeah, when I started doing the freestyle again during the recovery, started progressing really fast. And I think one thing that happened to me was that I became grateful, so grateful just to be able to walk again, just to be able to kick a football again. When I recovered, I was like, every day I just thought, I'm going to improve as much as I can because I can do it. I have a body that is allowing me to get better, and I've got to make the most of this. So my whole mindset changed. I was very naturally gifted as a kid. I was one of the fastest kids. I was one of the most agile, had very good balance. You know, my family history is like they were all athletes in different areas, whether it was golf, rugby, judo, you know, all sorts. So, my grandfather was a professional darts player. We had so many different elements to it. So I think I had that natural kind of thing at the start, and I've always been passionate about sports, but just being truly grateful that, you know, it was so close to being wiped away from me, the thing that I love the most. So then when I could do it, I wanted to make the most of it, and I always wanted to be the best. I've always been like driven to be the best at everything that I do. So.
That's a great segment of your life, which has got so many, you know, good mindset traits and lessons. And on that note, look, you got 1.3 million people that follow you on Instagram. You got a load more on different channels. Even your YouTube, you got 128,000 subscribers. Even one of your videos I saw has got 9 million views on it or something from many years ago. So, quote unquote, the media or the wider world would call you an influencer. And
sure,
I would agree with that. So, you know, your advice, if any young person is going through adversity, not just breaking legs, I'm just talking about challenges at school, challenges trying to find a job, challenges with, I know, keeping up with the social media, the people that they follow. I don't know what it is, but what sort of advice would you give them if they're going through this adversity?
Yeah, I would say like you said, it can come in so many different forms. Everyone that wants to achieve something, I would just say like it's part of the journey, because everyone that wants to go out there and try and achieve something great in their life, if you're bold enough to go out and do it, if you've got that courage, like if you want to go and do it, which I think everyone should, they should go for things in life. You're going to have adversity. You're going to have setbacks. There's going to be things you're going to have to go through. It's never going to be that straightforward. So I think it's just embrace it. And sometimes that's a lot more easily said than done, because, you know, it can really suck, you know, whether it's like I don't know, a mental health thing or a physical challenge or whatever. But there's so many different things to do in life now, especially with like the new age of like the internet and like, you know, these social media stuff like that's on it. It's just crazy. So there's so many different ways to make a living, so many different paths that you can forge. Anyone that's got access to the internet has just endless possibilities. And so there's always something that you can do that's great. And it's just finding the right thing. So I'd say just experiment and just keep moving forward. And sometimes you won't know like the destination, the end destination, but you just gotta keep grinding away and see any setback or any bit of adversity as just like part of it. That's what you're gonna have to go through to get there. And if you really want it, you're willing to go through that, no matter how bad it is.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I think setbacks, you know that old thing that is, it's not failure, it's feedback, and I definitely agree with that. It's about your perception of what's happened. Is that failure, or is it feedback, and is it just a challenge that you need to get over? And also venturing into new areas. My old boss, when I was younger, my early 20s, when I was in a sales company, said, always you say this to me: take the leap of faith, and the net will catch you. And what he meant by that is, when you take a leap of faith into something, you don't know what's around the corner. There will be challenges, but there will be opportunity which you're going to capitalize on, and that net will be there to catch you, providing that you have faith and you believe in yourself and you're hard working.
100%.
I want to ask you about your career, because it's unusual, right? If I don't know how old you are. I'm 36.
I'm 30.
30. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I was 30. I
wish I was 25.
My business partner's 30 and I'm 37 this year. And I don't think I'm old, but...
No, you look young as well. You look after yourself.
Thank you, mate. And I look and think, fuck, I wish I was 30 still. I wish I was 28 or 25. But anyway, I'm 36 and I know what my mum and dad are like, right? I'll give you a very small segment to my life. When I was coming out of school, I had no idea what I wanted to be. I went to join the Marines. I joined the Marines, and as I was going through that kind of first stages, my mum literally broke down in the hallway and was crying. It was like, "You're going to get killed," etc.
Yeah.
My dad supported her and said, "Look, get yourself a trade, something like electrician, sparky, carpenter, because you'll never go skint." That was their
fallback plan. Yeah.
So out of love and respect for them, I ended up becoming a plumber, and I hated it from the moment I started it to the moment I finished it. Yeah. I don't believe I've ever suffered from anxiety or depression, but I would say if there was a moment in my life where I was, let's call it quote unquote, the most depressed, it was when I was a plumber, because I knew I wasn't living my true life and I was living their life. They weren't doing it to be spiteful. That's all they knew, and that's what they, you know.
They're just looking after your best interests.
Exactly.
And, you know, they don't know what's inside you, like deep down, like what your potential is.
Yeah.
You know, and they're just trying to look out for you, like they remember you as a little kid and just want to protect you, that protective instinct.
Exactly. And, you know, they're acting like any mother and father would. I then ventured into, I had a motorbike accident, 2005, was in hospital for a long time. And a friend of mine come and saw me and he said, "Look, you'll be really good at sales. You got the energy for it. You got the personality for it. Let's start this company." Anyway, long story short, started it, had a lot of challenges, a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks, and now I'm here and doing this. Anyway, point I'm trying to make is this. My family, if I would have told them from the get-go I'm getting into sales, they were like, "You're fucking crazy. Like, you are mental." Now, I mean, I even had a family member say, "Don't go into that, you'll get brainwashed," and all this kind of stuff. But now they can appreciate why I've done it. If my mum and dad were your mum and dad and you were going down the freestyle social media route, I know exactly what they would say without even asking them. They'll go, "That is bonkers."
Yeah.
But clearly you've made a huge success of yourself. So coming from Cornwall, coming from the background you come from, you must have had people say, like, "How can you make a career out of that? That's not conventional."
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what they did say.
Your parents?
Yeah, they did. They were like, "Oh, come on, Andrew, like go to university, do a law degree," you know, because I played so many sports as well. And freestyle was like, at the start, it wasn't even one that I was that good at when I started. It took me ages to learn the first few skills. So I got to a stage where when I recovered from the leg break, I actually broke my arm straight after I recovered. I got a metal plate and 9 screws in there as well. So it was just like, my son's going to go and do sport for his job. And this sport where there's not really like a obvious career path with it, you know, like if you do football, maybe you don't make it, you be a coach or whatever, you know, but I think if I said I was going to play football or rugby, I think they would have just backed it because I was good. And if I just focused in one sport, I would get very good at it. You know, I played like 5 different sports for county at the same time. I was just, any sport that I took up, I would get good at. But because I was playing so many, I wouldn't be like, you know, top level in those sports because I was spreading it out. And just to focus on one that was like an established sport, I think they'd be more confident in. But with freestyle, no, they just were like, nah. Like, can you even make a living from that? Was the first question. Whereas you know you can with football. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's very difficult. But with freestyle, it's like, was that even a thing? Especially back then, like 2010, 2009. And I said, I want to make a living from it. I want it to be my job and I want to be the best in the world. They were like, yeah, but can you even make any money from it? And all that sort of thing. And at the time, I didn't even know, to be honest. I just loved doing it. I knew that I wanted to be the best in the world. So when I finished my A-levels, I was like, I'm going to take a year out, like a gap year, and just train and try and be the best. And I progressed so much in that year because it was the first time in my life where I just focused on one sport and I just got so much better all the time. And I was training 10, 12 hours a day. I was obsessed with it. I was just like going nuts, like, I think during that year or those 2-3 years, like no one trained anywhere near the amount I trained in freestyle. I just pushed so hard, and I ended up qualifying for the Worlds. I won the UK champs when I was 17, qualified for the Worlds, and just like I had a bit of a setback there. Maybe we can touch on that a bit later. But I knew that I was in the the opportunity was there for me to be able to do this. So once that happened, they were fine with it. They were like, cool, you're doing that. In that 1 year out, we'll allow you to have that. And I was going to do it anyway. And the thing that kind of convinced them was like, I could do university at any time. I could always go back and do it. But this I might not be able to do again. So I got to pursue this now. So that was it. And yeah, friends around, they kind of thought I was crazy. But I was always a bit crazy. I was always nuts. I was the kind of guy, like, when I played rugby, I'd be an individual on the field and I would do different things, you know. I've got lots of crazy stories of when I played and, you know, I would do different things. You know, I wasn't like ever like a normal athlete that just blended in with the team and stuff like that. So I think they kind of knew I was a bit different. Yeah.
Bit of a lone wolf.
Definitely, yeah. Sometimes that was hard. You know, like I remember PE teachers that there was a South Africa trip in rugby and I was like probably I was definitely the top try scorer in the school. I was like top point scorer. I did the kicks as well. And like they did a big tour to South Africa where they put 2 years, like 2 different year groups in the tour. It took about 50 kids over to South Africa to do a big rugby tour, playing all the teams out there, like massive trip. Like when you're that age, that's like a massive deal. And they didn't pick me for the tour. They didn't let me go on it when I was like, probably the best player. It was me or another guy were the best 2 players. And, you know, he plays now professional, plays for Bath and he, you know, he's trained with the top players in the country and you know, he went down that path, but they didn't pick me for that tour. And that's because I was so individual. I was so different and they didn't like that, especially in Cornwall. There's kind of like this little Freemasonish kind of weird society thing, you know, going on. So yeah, it was an interesting time, but yeah.
This conversation really reminds me of the one that's coming out today with Mr. JWW. Is a guy called James Walker, who's a YouTube car influencer. There's the likes of Shmi 150. There's the likes of Damon from Daily Driven Exotics, who I interviewed on the Gumball Rally. There's a bunch of these car guys, and the reason why I say it's quite similar is he's a British guy. He's doing really well for himself now,
Okay.
And at the start, it was him just playing with cars almost. And it's almost like if you just played with the cars, you may not actually start turning it into a business. You need to monetize it. And the way you do it is by social media, predominantly YouTube. Yeah. That's how we started. And at the start, it was almost like yeah, great, you like these cars, but how are you going to turn this into a profession? And there's a lot of people, especially my mum and dad's era, which they don't understand social media. They kind of think it's a bit of sometimes a fad or a waste of time, or it's just like mucking about. But really and truly, you can make, I mean, some of these people now are making an absolute killing from the social media. So when did you realise that, okay, you got a skill, you've now become the youngest national champion at 17 years of age after your break, 19 years of age, you won your world title. Now, 5-time world champion, football's freestyler. You performed in 50 different countries. I mean, the people that you've been associated with is crazy. I mean, when was it you were like, okay, right, I'm going to take this skill and actually house what I'm doing on things like YouTube, on things like Instagram, TikTok, etc.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because now like I'm seen as one of the guys that was early to that sort of stuff, like the social media stuff. But actually at the time doing it, I felt like I was very late to it, because I remember I saw guys like the F2 freestylers like jumping on social media really early, and they, you know, those guys have built a big brand, got tens of millions of followers and that sort of thing, with like hardly any skill. You know, they're kind of beginner freestylers, but they've managed to build a brand because they were early, and then they understood, they started learning the rules of the game before anyone else. And I saw them go on it when I was a world champion at the time. I saw them doing the social media thing, and I was like, this is the next thing. This is what I got to be doing. And I was posting YouTube videos a bit here and there anyway, but it was more like show reels of performances that I was doing, and competition highlights and that sort of thing. But it wasn't like for building like a social media presence or anything like that. But I saw what they were doing. And even kind of before that, I was seeing other people do similar things in other fields. And I was like, this is definitely what I should be doing. But I didn't want to distract myself because I still had more goals in the sport of freestyle.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to do that. I was like, I don't care about earning any money. I don't care about being famous, popular. Don't care about anyone knowing me. I just want to be the best in freestyle football. That's all I care about. I want to be the best ever. Because I'd become the best. I'd won the world championship. I was like, now I want to become like 3 times. Then when I won 3, I was like, I'm going to get 5. And then that'll be it. I'll be like miles away from everyone else in the sport in terms of achievement. So I'm going to just like retire once I get 5. And I like didn't want to distract myself by doing anything on social media, doing content, anything like that. I was like, nah, I'm just going to focus on this. So I saw it happen for a few years before actually jumping on the social media thing. So that's why I felt like I was so late. But actually, in the grand scheme of things, I was really early. Like I was on TikTok before it was even TikTok. It was called Musical.ly before. It was like a lip syncing app. And I was posting videos of me doing freestyle. And there I was one of like the first 2 or 3 freestylers on the platform. And like definitely got a good head start on there. And understanding how to make YouTube videos, get the audience engagement up and stuff like that. I kind of knew before that became like a job that every kid now desires, you know, and that sort of thing. So I'm definitely very grateful that I kind of just stumbled across freestyle, and the fact that it's like a creative new sport. Well, it's quite new, you know, compared to a lot of other sports. It just fits social media really well. So I think I'm kind of lucky in that respect. Yeah.
I'm a dad, right? I've got a 3.5-year-old, and I've got a boy, Logan. I mean, by the time this comes out, he will be over 10 months, but he's about to be 10 months. Wow. And I mean, he's come out to 1 year of age. And before I had kids, it was almost selfish mindset, just think of yourself, and I don't block out anything that it's not really relevant to me. But now I can't, because they're in the world and they're coming to me for advice, and obviously their mum and their wider family, and everyone's got a different perspective on life. Again, if he asked my mum and dad, his grandparents, they can have a completely different view on me, and I like to welcome change. I'm obviously a podcaster. I'm nowhere near got the footfall that you've got, but my goal is to become the best in what I do with the podcasting, and I've got a bit of a game-changing plan in order to get there. So I understand the benefits of social media, YouTube, etc. But there's that paradox between some kids might muck around with social media and muck around with doing stuff, I know, like dabble in football or dabble in this and dabble in that, and it's almost like they're just dabbling in and not really progressing in it. And other people take it super seriously, such as yourself with the freestyling and obviously your content. And I believe I've taken my podcasting very seriously. I've been doing it for nearly 4 years now. And you can kind of see the progression. What I'm trying to get at is like the advice for the younger audience is like, if you're going to do it, don't dabble and muck around in it. Either do it properly or don't do it at all.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually just listening to the podcast you did with Dan Morley. And one of the things you talked about in there is how him boxing and yourself when you've been boxing, how that kind of is there's a lot of things that will help from that and the mindset you have to have for that. The adversity you go through, all those different things that can relate into business and other things that you pursue. It's like one thing helps everything. And I think that's the thing, like for me, getting to the level I got to in freestyle football, that consistency of training is what got me there. Just hours and hours, but consistently training. And it's the same with social media. If you do social media, it's like you got to consistently post. If you're doing a podcast, you got to consistently do episodes. It's like a magazine, you know, if you subscribe to a magazine, you get it monthly. If you didn't know what, you know, if it just came out on random dates, didn't come out once a month, if it came out here, there and everywhere, you just wouldn't be able to follow it. You wouldn't be able to follow what's going on. Like TV programs, when they're at a set time, a set day, it's the same thing, right? You need that consistency of work or whatever it is. It needs to be consistent. So I've seen that with the freestyle. I've seen that with social media. And now, like, if I pursue something, I do pursue it fully and consistently if that's something I want to achieve. And just dabbling in with something, doing a little bit here and there, there's no consistency in that. You're not going to see results. So it's good to experiment with different things, but you've got to give it enough time. And when I look at all the businesses that I run and different projects that I'm doing, and I look at the success I have in all of them, it's like, how much work did I put in to all of them? And I'm like, if I put like the different businesses here and like, okay, this is the amount of success I've got in them here, then like there'll be a bar next to it, almost the same height with the amount of hours that I've spent, you know, on those ones. So I think there's not really too much secret in it. It's just constant work in those fields, and you've got to allow it time, like give it time. No one became like the best boxer in 2 weeks. No one became the best freestyler in 2 weeks, the best at the podcast in 2 weeks. You just got to give it a lot of time. And it's kind of obvious, but it's easy to get down on yourself. Like you go to one boxing session, you think, oh, this isn't for me. It's like, no, it can be for you. If you want it to be for you, it can be for you, but first enjoy it, play, have a bit of fun with it. And that's like a big thing I would say to a lot of people. When people start freestyle, a lot of people come to me and they've never done freestyle before, and they say, Andrew, I want to be the next best freestyle footballer. And I'm like, okay, how long have you been training? They're like, oh, I haven't really started yet. I kind of I can do a few kick-ups. And I'm like, look, you don't know if you want to be the next freestyler. You like the idea of it. You like what comes with it, traveling the world, doing freestyle with Ronaldo, Messi, winning championships, getting followers, stuff. You like the idea of it. But you don't know what freestyle is because you haven't actually done it. You know, you haven't felt it. So you need to go and feel it. So you need to go and be free and have fun with it. That means you need to spend time in it. So just dabble in a little bit here and there is not enough. You need to go in, figure out what it is, figure out if you actually really love it. And if you wake up excited to do it, and then if you wake up excited to do it more than like a couple of weeks in a row, it might be for you. So put a bit more effort into it. And then if you want to get really good or one of the best, you got to think about it all the time. I think that's like the main progression I think I've made is up here, not actually physically. And it's the same with fighting now that I've progressed into the MMA. The most progression is the mental side, just thinking about it. Because you can beat someone that does 10,000 kicks in a row, 10,000 punches in a row with one, you know, and that all that time they've served on that, you can beat them with just one thought, you know, if you just sit in a room and think about things and how you're going to break them down. So definitely got to train hard, but the mindset that comes later. Yeah.
I think it's the obsession with becoming better, the better version of you every single day, tweaking certain things. Because with you, even with the podcast, even with a lot of stuff which is online today, there's two elements. You've got your product, which is what you do, you know, presenting the skills, the execution of what you're about to do, etc. but then you've got the actual video where learning how to edit it, how to tweak it, you could have one. I remember the guy who got me into podcasts, a guy called Rob Moore, who's got the Disruptive Entrepreneur podcast. He's a very successful guy in property. He interviewed Jake Paul. Now, it's almost a given if you interview someone like a Jake Paul, Logan Paul,
starts boosting it.
Floyd Mayweather, which he has interviewed a few of those guys, you're going to get hits. But some of his videos, in his own words, said they flopped because of the edit. And then they re-edited it and they brought it back out. And the same video, which was done slightly differently, actually smashed it. So it's that obsession about thinking, how can I tweak this all the time? Which I definitely agree on that point.
100%.
I wanted to ask you this. So you said about the lifestyle that comes with it, yeah? And that is what's kind of attractive when we're following your profile and your pages, because you're very good at what you do, but then it's obviously the people that you align yourself with. I mean, the campaigns that you've done for the NFL, Nike, the Olympics, I think, there's been a bunch of different commercials or brand advertisements that you've aligned yourself with, which is wicked, but then traveling to 50 different countries. Part of the reason why I've done the Gumball Rally is because I went from Toronto all the way through America, finished in Miami, then I flew over to Cuba, to Havana, because some of those places I've never been to in my life. And I thought, well, what better way of, hitting these places by doing it in a supercar with all like-minded people.
Sounds fun.
So it sounds very similar to like what you do. And then the list of names, Ronaldo, both Ronaldos, the Brazilian one and Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, David Beckham, Prince Harry. I mean, like, these are the people that you've either played alongside, done skills alongside, just rubbing shoulders with them. So let's talk about these individuals then. I mean, which one of them, when you first met them, I've got to be honest, if Ronaldo walked in here today, I'd be like almost in awe. Like, I think he is the pinnacle of an athlete.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Forget just football. I'm talking about athlete. I'm talking about winner. I'm talking about business person. I think he is razor sharp.
Definitely.
Is that something you would agree with? And
100%.
At this list, who really stands out for you?
There's so many to choose from, but starting with Cristiano, I mean, it was kind of weird. Like we got on so well because I think everyone, when they talk with him, they just want to talk about football. They just want to talk about him being great at football. And myself, although I do freestyle and I've always been around football, and it was my first love, football as a kid, I'm now not as invested in, like, I don't watch all the Premier League games. I don't stay in touch with, or I don't know all the players and all the teams in the Premiership or in the Premier League. So, and other leagues, I do follow it, but I'm not like diehard fan of any team. Kind of like a neutral now, which is an interesting one. So for me, it's like, I don't really want to talk about football, and I'm not like starstruck by anyone now. I've met so many different celebrities, football players, other athletes, and I was there to do a job as well. So I choreographed a lot of commercials for Ronaldo, and I have to communicate with him. And it's kind of a weird one because everyone, when they meet Ronaldo, is in awe because he's like you said, a pinnacle of what an athlete is, and one of the most successful athletes in the world. But for me, they're always trying to take something from him or listen to him or get something. And sure, that would be great. And part of the experience of that is true for me. But I'm also giving him something because I'm teaching him some skills that he's going to do on the commercial. It's a very different exchange than he normally has. And I think that kind of it broke down the barriers between like all the fans that, he doesn't really make new friends often, because he's got that barrier there between, like, he's super famous and everyone just tries to get something from him. For me, it was just like an exchange where I'm choreographing the skills for the commercial that he's in. So I'm like working with him on a project, and he's asking questions about freestyle because he loves doing skills. Especially when he's at United, he loved doing freestyle skills, step overs. He still does a bit of freestyle himself. He plays a bit differently now, of course, but he's still very, very skillful, especially off the pitch. So he's asking questions about how do I do this trick? How do I do that trick? And I'm like I've got the answers and I can show him. And it was just an interesting exchange. And then we were talking about UFC as well, like because he's really into MMA. So I'm talking about different fighters, and we were talking. I think the first time we met, it was just maybe a few weeks before the McGregor Alvarez fight for the belt. So we were talking about that and our predictions and stuff, and it was just nice. I think nice for him to talk with someone, another athlete, about something away from football, but still something that's interesting. So that was a very interesting experience for me, and we got on very well. He's a very humble guy, but I can see, like you said, that focus is just constantly there. Even like we were trying to do some, one of the shots, he had to knock down 2 drones in a row. Drones are flying above, and he had to control the ball, kick it over a river, and hit two drones. It's just outside his house, and he you know, he would try it, that it wouldn't, the drones kept flying around different directions, and even to the point where like some of the balls would go in the water, and there was people that were literally, their job was to get paid to be there to take the ball out of the water, dry the balls, and put them back ready for the next shot. But he would jump in, grab the balls out, and go for it. Like, he was obsessed with getting it, you know, and he doesn't need to be. Like, doesn't need to be, you know, he can do what he wants, but he was, because he's that determined, and I think he's like that with everything that he does in his life. But football obviously has been the primary focus. So it was good to see that, how humble he is, because sometimes on different shows he might not come across like that, but I think that's just like not how it seems. I'd say he's very humble, and yeah, it was a good experience. Definitely working with him, I learned a lot as well. Definitely learned a lot. Yeah,
like the psychology there is really interesting, and I can understand what you mean. Like, if you walked in here now, what would probably be one of the first things I would say? Oh, you're fantastic. You know,
it's just what everyone goes to talk about.
It's just a natural
football.
thing. Can I have a photo? And it's like that in a way is me trying to get something off him, and I totally apprate that.
Yeah, because there's a small window of time, and you'll never see him again, and you're like, oh, no one else will ever know, and it was just that quick experience, and you know, and for sure I got pictures with him. I've got videos doing skills with him that I'll post, you know, regularly or whatever. But for me, it was just like, when it's all said and done in my life, I won't really care about like a picture or a video, or it's more just like the interactions that I have with people and the experiences that I have in the moments. And that's one thing that I try not to do too much when I'm like, say like I'm with my girlfriend and we're away somewhere. I don't want to be like constantly taking pictures of beautiful scenery. I kind of just want to enjoy
want to be in it. Yeah, you know, I understand.
But there is also the business side of things and social media side now, where it is about capturing things and posting things. And that's part of my job. So for sure there'll be that involved, but it's not actually the first thing that comes to my head. It's normally I have to get reminded by like my assistant or cameraman or something, you know, like, oh man, you guys need to get a picture.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, now we should do that, you know.
Yeah. It's the same thing with us with the Gumball Rally, because part of the reason why we've done it is for the content. We wrap the car in Richard Hamilton stop signs. And obviously I run a podcast, which now is evolving into a bit more of a lifestyle type thing. Yeah. And always thinking about, right, trying to capture this, trying to capture that. And the problem with that, the benefit with that is, from a business point of view, fantastic. Problem with that, from real life, you're missing actually the real life experiences, because you're trying to fucking get it all the time on the camera. What I was going back to is, you know, me wanting a picture with Ronaldo, but with yourself in that moment in time, it was like the pendulum had swung the other way, and now you're on the pedestal. Yeah. He's down here, because he's now become the student, and you're teaching him something.
Very weird thing, like,
which
even
is fantastic.
To think about it, you know, it's like, it's a weird thing, you know, because he's such a iconic person, you know. So yeah, but it made the exchange quite an interesting one. I quite like that. And even like the content that we got that I post on my social channels, that's not me going, hey, let's do a freestyle video. That's actually just me and him playing around on set in between takes. Because I had to walk around the house with him during breaks and talk to him and say, like, we're going to
his house.
Yeah. And it was his house for the set, you know. So we're walking around and I'm saying, right, okay, we're going to have like 20 minutes in this location. And what we need to do is we need to get this clip, and the things that are going to be challenging are like how you're going to control the ball when it comes to you here, because you're going to be lying down in your bed and it's like a waking up scene. So you're going to have to take the duvet off, and then you're going to have to control it just with your chest. Like, where do you want it on your chest? Do you want it here? Do you want it here? Like little things like that. Like, and then I'm communicating. So we're just walking around chatting. It's just like normal. But then we have breaks. And during the breaks, it's just like anyone, you see a football, you want to play with it. And for him, he's excited to do some freestyle with someone that is the best at freestyle, So I'm excited to do freestyle with Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously. So I want to play, he wants to play, and we're just kind of messing around. And that's the content that I post because it's the most natural stuff. And there's one video where him and all his management are behind him. And it was kind of like he did an around the world. And I've got the footage. Actually, I've never posted this video, but I might post it soon. Like he does an around the world, then I do like some more technical tricks. Then I pass to him and he's like, I'm not the world champion of this, but I try. And it's like, he's just being so humble. And I think he liked it a lot because the attention wasn't on him. There was no pressure on him because it wasn't his thing, but it was with the same object. So it's like his whole life has been around being the master of the football. And he is in so many ways, but like the freestyle side, that's my field that I've focused on, that specialist element, even though it is a lot more niche, of course. That's the thing that I could give to him. So that exchange for me is definitely something that I'm proud of and enjoyed massively. Working with other players as well, you get so many other guys like with different styles, like Neymar, he's like completely different personality to Ronaldo. He's like fun. It's like Brazilian spirit. He's just always dancing around, joking, playing around. So, but he loves freestyle as well. So it's the similar sort of exchange where like I can teach him some skills and we have an exchange like that. So I've always enjoyed all that sort of things.
Like the Ronaldo, the Neymar, the Beckham. Was there any skills that you've really honed in on that's taken you a long time to perfect and master? And these guys had no chance. They couldn't do it.
Yeah, of course. There's like thousands of skills, man. It's I think a lot of people kind of don't really understand that about freestyle. They think, oh, Ronaldo and Messi and Neymar, for sure they can do all the best skills. It's like they can't, because just like I can't step on a football field and play for Real Madrid or Manchester United, like it takes years of training, just dedication, focus to that. And like that's the same what I've dedicated with into freestyle. I'm focused. I've been focused 10, 12 hours a day. They can't do that and just skills. They've got to think about controlling the ball, playing with a team, passing, all these different elements, right? So they're never going to be able to do some of the best skills that we can do. For example, triple around the world, putting your foot around the ball 3 times essentially before you touch it again. Like there's no football player in the world that can do that, but there are hundreds of freestylers that can now do that skill, So
okay, I'm going to ask you the golden question, all right? Ronaldo, Neymar, David Beckham. Out of the 3, who was the best freestyler?
Do you know what? I actually haven't done the skills with Beckham. I've just done. Maybe we kicked it a little bit, but not really. I think it was more me just showing him my skills. Same sort of thing. I don't know if you've seen the Harry Kane stuff. It's like those guys, they can't do too many skills, to be honest. They're incredibly skillful in football, but in terms of doing like freestyle football skills, the around the world, balancing your head and stuff, they can just do the kind of basics. But Neymar and Ronaldo, who else? Pogba's got some good skills. Christian Fuchs is one of my best friends. He won the Premier League with Leicester a few years back, Leicester City, and he's getting incredible at freestyle because he trained it. He trained it hard, and we spent a lot of time together working on different skills. I'd say it's between him or probably Neymar now. Neymar's got better. Ronaldo's good, man. He's very underrated with the skills. Even now when you see him play football, it's easy to forget how good he is with skills and little tricks and step overs and stuff. But when you look back at the footage of him at United, he can still do all that. He really can. He just doesn't, because that's not how the style he plays. So I'd say all round with the sort of in-game skills, I think Ronaldo's probably the best. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
And the Prince Harry connection.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's the most skillful. No.
Tell me about that.
That was
meeting up with, and what's he like?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. It's always fun doing stuff with like royalty. I've performed in front of Prince Charles as well. Got a standing ovation from him, and it's just fun with these guys. Like it's just It's weird. What I really like is seeing all these different celebrities or royal family or whatever, like out of their normal like roles that you see them on TV, and it's just funny. So like with Prince Harry, we were throwing a rugby ball around. I actually get I get a lot of inquiries about doing rugby freestyle because I played rugby for so long. You know, sometimes I'm like, do you know what? I'm gonna just like do some videos with a rugby ball because it's hard to do freestyle with a rugby ball. Obviously, the shape of it. It's difficult, but because I played, I have loads of rugby balls lying around my house. Sometimes I do some tricks of it. So I've even like performed in front of like 80,000 people, 85,000 people in different countries just with a rugby ball, which is sometimes so difficult. It's so stressful that like I'm such a perfectionist. I'm like, I'm not dropping that ball. So even if I'm performing a halftime, like 5-minute show with a rugby ball, I'm like, I'm going to train my ass off for it. So I'm just training so hard for it. When I get there, I'm like so nervous because just a little bit of wind and the ball starts rotating differently, and then you might kick it on the point of the ball instead of the flat bit. Yeah. Not like a football where it just rotates like that and I can get it under control. It's so difficult, but you know, that's why you got to train even harder when you do that stuff. But with Prince Harry, I got booked to do some rugby stuff. At school, we were doing some stuff together. So we actually played a game of rugby together, me, him, and some kids, which was quite fun. And then I did a rugby freestyle show, tried teaching him a few moves, and just had a good exchange. He's a really nice guy. He's a good athlete as well, man. Underrated athlete. You know, he was
in the military, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think specifically in rugby, he was really good. So yeah, but he's very fit and you know in good shape when I saw him. So that was quite surprising. You know, I mean. Don't know why I wouldn't assume that, but yeah, definitely.
So you touched on it earlier, and you've actually gave the answer, but I'm going to ask it more direct, and you're probably going to elaborate on it. Sure. I've seen this question posed to you. I wouldn't say by a hater. Well, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. They've just said, "Look, you're so good at freestyle. You're so good at the accuracy that you've got with that ball, like hitting a crossbar, going into a bin, which is miles away." Or hitting a target, you seem to be pitch perfect every single time. People say, why haven't you just become a normal footballer? Because you could probably make it if you dedicated yourself to it. Knowing your mindset, you probably would. You're very skillful, and also there's a shit ton of money to be made in that area. So why didn't you pursue that?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a question that I get asked a lot. Personally, I just go for things that I want to do. Like for me, freestyle became the thing that I wanted to do the most. And, you know, I don't think about money or fame or anything like that. Those sort of things, fame, being famous doesn't like, that's never been something that appealed to me ever. So yeah, I mean, playing football, I love football. It's really fun, but I just wanted to be the best at freestyle, and yeah, I'll find my own ways of making money and stuff like that through it. So it was just that. Do I think that I could have been a professional football player? Yeah, you know, like if I dedicated the amount of hours I did to freestyle, then I think I would be. Do I think I could be the best football player in the world? You know, that you can't answer, you know, until you do it, because you know, Ronaldo, when he was playing, you know, professional football for the first few years, it's not like he's the best football player in the world then. You know, you got to keep going and pursuing it and pushing it. It's like Dan Morley now, incredible boxer, undefeated. Can he be the best boxer in the world? Yeah, but so can a lot of other guys. And then it's who wants it the most, who pushes through, gets a little bit of luck along the way. And, you know, the teams they're with, injuries, you've got to get through it in different ways. So I don't know, personally for me, that was not really a thought of mine. I just wanted to pursue freestyle and see if I could be the best in that, because I love it. There's something about freestyle that you don't get in football or a lot of other sports, and that's the creative side of it. It's almost like an art form, you know? Like when I come in here and I see all this art, it's like I feel like what I do is kind of art as well, you know, in a different way. It's like the self-expression with freestyle. That's what it's all about. I can create my own skills. I've created thousands of my own tricks and variations with the ball. And that's not just a sport of football and controlling the ball. I'm definitely an individual. You know, I take well to individual sports. And even when I played team sports, I was an individual. So I think freestyle actually fits me well. There's the physical side, doing the technical hard tricks where you're moving your legs as fast as you can. You have to explode into certain movements. The competitive side in the world championships and stuff like that. But there's also the artistic side where you're creative. It's about flow. It's almost like a dance. And that sort of stuff I really love. I love music and doing skills to music. So for me you can definitely be creative in football, don't get me wrong, but really you can be super creative in freestyle, and that's what I love about it. So for me, it was definitely the sport for me. And that's why I love fighting as well. I love cage fighting because I feel like it's the same thing. It's a sport, and everyone sees it as this big barbaric sport where everyone's so aggressive and all that. But actually it's an art form as well. The way you move, there's no rules essentially. And that's what I like about freestyle. There's like no rules to it. You can do whatever you want. It's just moving your body and the ball. And the external object is quite fun. You don't get that in fighting, but you have an opponent and you have to figure out these answers. And a lot of people use an analogy in martial arts, like it's like a game of chess. And it's a similar sort of thing with freestyle as well. You move in different ways. And when you go against an opponent, it's 1v1 battle on a stage. They do skills and you've got to react to that and reply with your own skills, almost like a dance off. And I just love that style of kind of urban sort of style of things. Yeah.
You could have been a breakdancer as well with some of the moves that you pull off.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. I train with some of the best breakdancers in the world, some of the guys, Vagabonds in France, and some of the guys a few times. I used to be in a French freestyle team and they would incorporate gymnastics, breakdance, music, all that. So I learned a bit along the way, doing backflips with the ball and different like moves, like basic breakdance. Like if you're in the b-boy scene, some of you guys will know it's like flares and windmills and things like that. But I'm pretty bad at breakdance, man. I look like I'm good because I can do it with the ball. I take the ball out and I just look a lot worse, which is funny. You'd think I'd be better, but I'm worse. The ball helps me look better with the breakdance skills, I'd say.
Fair enough. I'm definitely going to ask you very shortly about the MMA journey, your fight, etc. Just before I do, what makes the perfect video, YouTube video, TikTok video for what you do? And the second thing is, what makes a world champion freestyle footballer?
Okay. So I would say to make a good video, like TikTok video, for example, and Instagram, I'd say it depends on what you define as great. Like if it's about getting views and like the audience involved and interaction, stuff like that, I would say doing a completely new concept might hit well, but what I would say is it's about reactions with freestyle. That's what it's about. Like with the content, like I can do some of the most basic skills. Well, for me, they're kind of basic, but they'll be impressive to kids. And then they're reacting like crazy in the background, or just natural public reactions in an environment that you wouldn't normally see freestyle in. Like one of my videos, I think it's got like 30 million views on Instagram, 25 million views on TikTok. It's just me in a suit walking through town with a shopping bag. And I see some kids playing football and my friend gets out of the phone, he's filming. And I just stop, put the bags down. I'm like, pass. And they pass to me and I just like show them up with my skills. And they're all reacting like crazy. And the title's like surprising these kids whilst I was shopping, doing my football skills. And that like banged more. And I'm doing basic tricks. I'm wearing a suit shoes. And that banged like way more than me doing skills even with like Ronaldo and stuff, because like it's not as expected. And you think like, oh, imagine if I saw that in town, you can relate to it. Oh, I go shopping all the time. If I saw that, like, oh, he did it in those shoes. How could he do it in those shoes? All sorts of different points to make people ask questions and stuff like that. I think that's definitely
element of surprise.
Something that's engaging. Could be like a question, that people ask, or funny stuff. Even with football, you can make stuff funny, yeah, I would say just experiment is a big one. I'd say experiment and do your own thing. A lot of people copy nowadays. They just see an idea and they copy it. You can take inspiration. And I say that with freestyle skills as well. When you're learning freestyles, like take inspiration from others, but don't just copy their style. Be unique with your own style. It's like art. You know, and that's freestyle is an art form in that sense. Like, you don't want to just copy. Like, I don't want to, like, if I don't want to just copy this piece here, this beautiful piece. Like, if I'm an artist, obviously I'm not capable anyway, but like, let's say like, you want to do your own thing and you can be inspired by it, but you got to have your own touch. So add your own touch to all your content, I'd say.
Very good advice.
And the second one was what makes the best freestyler or most successful freestyler or something like that?
Yeah. So how do you make the best content on the platforms? How are you, like, how do you become, I know it's a hard work dedication, but what makes a great 5-time world champion football freestyler?
Yeah, I would say, like, when I think about winning multiple championships and stuff, I don't even think about social media. Like, that's a separate thing that came later. I just think about it like a sport, you know, and competitively. So I just say, yeah, it's just hard training all the time, looking at the different categories in freestyle. So in freestyle football, you've got different, there's lots of different styles, especially nowadays. It's kind of like MMA, you know, if you fight in the octagon and you just have boxing, it's not going to cut it nowadays, you know. If you just have kickboxing, you have to be a specialist, you have to be one of the best in the world, and then you still have to learn other things if you want to be one of the best. So it's the same sort of thing. You can have different percentage levels of all the different areas. It's how you blend it, how you make it work for you. Everyone's got a different mind, everyone's got a different body, and different ways of training. So you got to make it work for you, but you need to build a good base. So you need to have, like, the lower body skills in freestyle football, tricks with your legs. You need to be able to do a good level of that. So you need to understand what that is and go and research. You can ask me questions. I got a book out, you know, masterclass online. There are loads of other guys to learn from. You can just trial and error, but there's definitely a system that you can build up to get to a certain level. Upper body tricks, doing tricks with your head, sitting down tricks, sit downs in freestyle, they're called. And then, like, transitions as well. You need to be able to transition between all the different areas. You need to build a good solid base in those areas. And then from there, you can start learning the more technical tricks and create your own tricks. And then when you compete, you need to be able to adapt. That's the main thing. Be able to adapt to whatever, because you can have a plan and then someone does a trick you've never seen before. And then you're like, whoa. And it's kind of like that thing. I think it was Tyson, you know, when you get punched in the face, it's the same sort of thing, you know, it all goes out the window. So that happens in freestyle too. So it's a similar sort of thing, man. Yeah.
Same psychology, same mindset. You've got to be a winner, adapt, to be versatile.
Those are the things I kind of brought over from freestyle to fighting as well, you know. Like, obviously I'm kind of new to it still, but I'm getting there.
This is a perfect segue into this then, okay? So I watched it before, but I just wanted to recap myself. I watched your MMA fight, which was, believe it or not, 2.5 years ago, 2019 December.
Yeah.
I think the guy was called Michael Fox.
Yeah, Mike Fox, yeah.
He looked quite a mean guy, tattoos all over him. But I've got to say, when the camera sort of came out and you two were standing there ready to go after you came head to head and shook each other's gloves, touched each other, you looked like you were very, very game. And my kind of, I'm not an MMA guy, I'm boxing. But when you came head to head, first 15 seconds, you were just on him standing up, but then you took him down. And now knowing that you had a background in rugby, it kind of made sense. Like, you would take him down, and you're game, you're strong, and also you're fit, because the punches that you're putting on, and there was no off button. It was go, and you stopped him in the first round. So tell me why you've gone into fighting, MMA specifically, and I know there has been talks about other fights, which we'll talk about in a minute, and kind of the aspirations and the journey and where you want to take it. So I've always had a passion for martial arts since I can remember. Like, I've been very, very passionate about martial arts. My father did some martial arts. He did judo to a very good level. You know, he's a British University champion. He trained with the Olympic squad. So, you know, I've always had a big passion for that. Obviously I played rugby, so I like contact sports. I was kind of getting a reputation in Cornwall before I had the injury as the dump tackle machine. I would kind of just dump tackle everyone. When dump tackling was legal, it's not anymore in rugby, but like, I used to just pick everyone up. I was tiny as well when I played. I still hadn't fully grown, and I was just like this small guy picking up men, essentially big men. You know, I was just slamming them into the ground, and to the point where, like,
anytime, when you get these teams and they get the penalty and they kick it and they tap it and go, they pass to their big guys to try and crash through, they would just line me up, even though I was a small guy, because they know that our team knew like the big guy is always going to run to try and smash through the hole or the gap of the easiest gap, or if they can't find a gap, they're going to try and run over the little guy, if they can. There's me, and then they put the two big guys next to me. Of course, he's going to run at me. And that's what we would just we'd set it up so I could just pick him up and smash him. And that was kind of how it went. Like I was always good at tackling, things like that. And I just love martial arts. I used to watch and study martial arts videos all the time. I found out about documentary, Choke documentary. I don't know if you've heard of it. No. It's with Hickson Gracie. Any guys watching, it's definitely a great documentary to start out, especially if you like jiu-jitsu, but MMA and you want to go back before the days of UFC. There's a competition called Vale Tudo. It was just amazing fighting championships where they brought different styles, and I just got obsessed with it. And I think I kind of like figured out that it wasn't just one style that was superior when I was quite young, and I kind of realized that. And I didn't have, like, nowadays, like, it seems like only like majority of people are only just like kind of find that out now with the last few years of kind of since Conor McGregor made UFC like massive and more popular. People were like, oh, this jiu-jitsu stuff's massive, but before that it wasn't like, if you like martial arts you'd know about it, but if you didn't like martial arts you wouldn't know. So yeah, I kind of just got into different martial arts, but I didn't train them. I've been to a few boxing classes, I've been to a few judo sessions and stuff like that. But then a few years back I started doing a bit of jiu-jitsu, a little bit of grappling, and started doing a bit of kickboxing and boxing and a little bit of Muay Thai. So it kind of just took off from there. And I knew during my freestyle career that was going to be the next thing. I knew early on, I was like, as soon as I'm done with freestyle, I'm going to start fighting MMA. I'm not going to leave this planet until I've had at least one MMA fight or several. So yeah.
Good for you. I mean, look, what I've seen so far, you're definitely suited to it.
Thanks.
Celeb MMA on Instagram promoted in April of this year on the 5th that you're going to be fighting James Locke. You were meant to be fighting him, okay? Mm-hmm. So James Locke, being a Talbot star, reality TV star, pretty big guy, and I've not seen him fight, so it'd be very, very hard for me to comment. But
yeah, he's a big one.
Andrew Henderson versus James Locke, would you have beaten him?
Oh yeah, I would beat him easily. Yeah. Well, that would be easier fight than my last fight. In fact, it was an easier fight than my last fight. We didn't actually fight, but I won that fight already because psychologically I broke him down. This guy, he looks like a man. He looks like a big man, but he's a small child. That's the reality of it. And it's hard. It might be hard for people to kind of grasp that without knowing him or seeing him in the flesh. But you see him on social media. He's this buffed up guy. He's. I think he's walks around about 100 odd kilos, 103 kilos or something like that. 6'3". Against me, a guy walks around like low 80s, 5'10". I think they could see like, no, this guy's not going to be afraid of that guy. He's a bigger guy, but he got scared of me. He got intimidated. And that's because he'd heard rumors of the training from my camp. And that's because we had to go 3 days a week to create gym up in somewhere like Essex Way, near where James lives, actually. And their team, there's like a blue team and a red team. This is because it was originally meant to be a TV show. So the red team would be training from, let's say, 10 till 12. And then we'd arrive at 12. Or say they're training 10 till 1. We'd arrive at 12 to start training at 1 when they're leaving. And we'd finish at 3. So there'd be a crossover all the time. And there were guys in my team that were friends with James, been on other reality TV shows with him, known him. And, the word spread that I was, doing well against those guys in training. I don't want to say anything negative to those guys that I was training with, but they know what I was doing in training. And they were spreading that message across to him one way or another. It got out to him and he started worrying like, oh, this is going to be hard, because he wanted an easy fight. And he looked at me as like, oh, this guy, smaller, not as heavy, it's going to be an easy fight. And when he found out it wasn't, he started to try and get in my head a bit. And I remember there were some days where he'd come to me and he would say certain things, or he would put his finger kind of past me and point in a direction to try and make me feel unsettled. But it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't like phasing me at all, because I knew what he was doing. It made it was like the opposite effect. I was like, okay, he feels like he has to get some advantage now because he feels like I might have the advantage. So I knew it was starting to get to him. He's the type of guy, he's like a bully. That's the way I see him. He wants to have this physical presence where he makes people look weaker than him, feel weaker than him, so that he can take him out. And I think he was just looking to push me over and push me back with his pressure and his size, and it almost like intimidate me into submission. But when he found out that wasn't going to happen, and there was one moment where I saw that it was done, and that was, we had a press conference about a month before about 5 weeks before we were scheduled to fight in London, and we sat the same distance as we're sitting now, away from each other, and he said, "Look at me in the eyes. I'll knock you out. I got heavy hands." And I got heavy hands. I'll knock you out. and I go, "I'm looking you in the eyes. You may have heavy hands, but I'll find a way in. You don't control them. When I find a way in, you're done." I looked him in the eyes and I saw him break. He couldn't look at me from that moment onwards. The rest of the night, he was looking away. We had a face off. He couldn't even look me in the eyes in the face off. I saw his eyes all over the room. He didn't want to be there with me. And I broke him. And I broke him just because I was being myself. And I don't see him as a threat. I see him as a challenge. You know, he's a big guy, but he's not a guy that wants to have a fight. He's a guy that wants to just beat a guy up. So that's why the fight's not happening. That's the reality of it. The reality of it is a lot of people are saying different things about it, you know. But that's why it didn't happen. You know.
I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do that. But inadvertently, are you suggesting that you bottled it?
I mean, yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not like I got contacted by someone from the company saying that they're taking me off the card because I'm too experienced. I didn't declare my experience level for the fight.
It's on the internet.
It's on the internet. I'm not super experienced. I have a passion for martial arts. I've trained, like I said before, I trained different martial arts, but I'm a football freestyler. I've spent, like I said in this interview already, 10, 12 hours a day training for it. I have a big passion for martial arts. Had I trained more than James? Probably a little bit. James is, walking around at 20 kilos heavier than me. He's, they tried to make the fight at 91 kilos. He's 6'3".
Cool, you would have had to put a lot of size, you.
Yeah, I couldn't, I just stayed low in the weight. So I wasn't going to go up to that weight. I was just going to fight him with the difference. And, he has to travel 10 minutes to go to that gym 3 days a week. I had to drive almost 2 hours to get there and then back. So I couldn't do other trainings. That was tiring. They stacked the cards in his favor from the off. And they were making up all sorts of rumors. I say that like different people would come to them and said certain things, let's say, saying that I was a certain belt in jiu-jitsu that I wasn't. They were saying I was a purple belt and I wasn't. They were saying I was a black belt at one point, I heard rumors of, and I'm not. They were saying I had 5 professional fights and in MMA and I haven't. They're just making up whatever to get me off the card because he's their guy and they want him on the show. I think actually when they look back at it all, they're the company kind of realized that they made a mistake with that. They should have had me on it because I would have sold more tickets. And I think I'm more interesting because actually I can fight and I enjoy MMA, and I'm a guy that could, if they were planning on doing other shows in the future, I could sort of wave the flag for their thing, and make it not look too gimmicky with guys that just absolutely can't fight at all. And be like their champion. a guy that actually trains seriously and makes it like a bit more of an interesting company going forward. But they didn't see that because they have their initial ties with James, and it's a business. I understand that, but it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm not gonna say like, you know, people can make their own minds up of if he pulled out or not, but what I'm gonna say is that he was scared of me. I'm sure, and if I did fight him, I would destroy him. Like, he wouldn't touch me once. He wouldn't touch me once, and I could beat him how quick. It'd be as quick as I wanted to. I guarantee that fight would be a much easier fight than with Mike. The reason being, not because of the skill level. You know, I still don't know Mike's skill level because I took him out in 40 seconds and he didn't land the punch. But because Mike was up for the fight, James it wasn't up for the fight. And also, when I fought Mike, that was my first fight. So I walked to the cage not knowing how I'd be in the cage. With those nerves, the pressure, not sure if I would adapt well. I've done it in freestyle, but I didn't know actually fighting a guy in a cage, you know, with my family there and friends there. Like, will I be able to fight normally, or how will I be? Will I rise to the occasion, or will I get nervous and choke? So I didn't know that, but now I know how I am in the cage. So I have that confidence against anyone, you know, even if there are guys that are way better than me and I'd lose, I would know that I could perform. And execute the skills that I have. So yeah, I know that fight, I would have wiped the floor with him. And I would have, you know, if we ever got the chance to fight, which we won't, because I think it's the furthest thing away from what he wants, I will make him pay big time. And yeah, I'll take him out. So if James, if you're watching, if you want to come out, any place, anytime, anywhere, man, any place, anytime, anywhere, man, no problem. You can be any weight you want. I'm down. Any money as well. You want to put any money on the line? You let me know, because I'm game. So that's it.
You actually just sort of answered a scenario that I was going to create, which is this: if James walked in here right now and he sat in this seat and he confronted you and said, "Hang on a minute, you got it all wrong,"
mm-hmm. Which he would.
Knowing what you know now and how his team's reacted and how well you've prepared and how confident you are. What would you say to James Locke right now if he's sitting in front of you?
I'll just let him talk, I think. You know, I'll let him talk. I think, you know, he's definitely not going to say that he's scared, is he? He's got too big of an ego for that. And he'll say, no, it was my management. No. He'll blame other people. But I'll say, listen, man, forget me being experienced. If you wanted to fight me, we would fight, you know? Like, we both signed to fight each other. If you wanted to fight me and you thought you could beat me, you wouldn't, even if your management was saying I'm too experienced, you would fight me, wouldn't you? If you think you could beat me, if you weren't afraid, you would fight me, wouldn't you? And the bottom line is, we're not fighting. Like I'm saying, I'm down to fight him. So who made that not happen? He did. That's the end of the line. So he can say that they pulled me off or some technicality or whatever. At the end of the day, the reason we're not fighting is because of him and his mind. So he could have come in, and even if his management were forceful with it, he could come back and say, no, I want to fight the guy. I can beat the guy. But he didn't. And then they put in another guy to fight him, to replace him. So, and now the whole card's being postponed. And I think they've put that guy in thinking he's only got a few weeks to prepare for James. And so he won't be able to do it. And I think the guy's going to do him. I think the guy will beat him.
Interesting to watch.
Because he's a coward. It doesn't matter how big and strong you are, you know. Guys that train martial arts for a few months know that. You can be big and strong. If you're a coward and you're not that technical, that's it. No chance. So that's what will happen. Yeah.
When I saw you training with Dan Morley, I quite naturally thought, Andrew's going into the boxing world. This is really interesting. Now, obviously, part of being an MMA fighter is you've got to learn boxing, Thai boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, etc. So I thought, maybe it's just the boxing element. Two things. Would you ever consider doing boxing? And if you are sticking at MMA, literally how far do you want to take it?
Boxing, yeah, I'll definitely consider doing it. To a professional level, I don't know. I don't think so. my real passion, I think, is with mixed martial arts. I have a massive passion for boxing. Like, I love it. If mixed martial arts didn't exist, I think boxing would be a thing, like that I would pursue, because I love it so much. It's so amazing. And training with Dan has made me realize that even more, because, I trained it before, but I'd never done proper sparring up until recently in boxing. And Dan's been throwing me in with some guys that are a lot more experienced and bigger. And, it's been a good test. And I've just spent a lot of time not in a cage, but actually in a boxing ring and with the boxing shoes on and boxing, rather than just doing boxing for MMA. It's a very different thing. And with a specialist like Dan, he's very specific with how he trains, and puts a lot of effort in. So going deep into the boxing mindset for a good month or so with Dan, 4 or 5 days a week we were training together. Yeah, that was a really good experience, and we're definitely going to pick up from when we left off after his next fight, I'd say. But it's definitely something I would definitely have a few boxing matches. I would love to do that, a few bouts. But I've done jiu-jitsu tournaments now. I would love to do more grappling tournaments, and I'd love to do boxing tournaments. I just like combat. But MMA that's definitely the next thing. I think I could do one of those celebrity boxing matches, maybe. That's definitely a focus. I've been invited to a few of them. So that could be the next one. But MMA, I think, is the next one, man. And how far I'm going to take that, I really don't know. My mindset once I retired from freestyle was like, I want to be fighting in a top organization in professional MMA. Now I think I just got to take it one step at a time. So it's just getting that next fight signed. I had a bit of a setback with this whole Celeb MMA thing. I was meant to fight. I put months and months into the training camp only to not be on the card. And now it's like, okay, I've taken that time out. So I think it's get back into training, just work on my skills, hone in on the craft. And once something presents itself, I'll make sure I'm ready and in a good position. I've leveled up for it. But I think the whole celeb sort of MMA thing, if I'm being honest now, I think this whole, James Locke was meant to be their big, strong guy that was going to be the headline card. That was meant to be the main event at Wembley Arena. And the guy won't fight me. I think that's a sign that maybe I've just leveled up a little bit more now, especially after it, and just him doing that. Maybe like a lot of celebs won't fight me in MMA. So I got to move on, and moving on means fighting on some shows, even if it's a small show, big show, whatever. Just get that experience in the cage, get that time, come back, train again. I would definitely like to turn professional in MMA before I stop. So I don't know what organization that'll be for, but I'd like to do that in the next year or two.
That'd be very exciting. Well, 2 things to that. 1, let me know, because I would love to come and support you. And 2, I cannot give you any help with MMA whatsoever. But as far as doing a little bit of sparring together,
100%,
boxing, I would love to do some with you. So,
I would like that too.
I'll speak to Dan and maybe we could arrange that at some point.
Definitely, let's do it.
Bearing in mind, like, I'm 36, I'm a bit of an old man comparison to you.
Nah. I've heard good things.
This is the last part I want to talk to you about before we wrap up, because I know your time's precious. It's only a very small segment, but I always like to ask people, you started this career, this journey, because you had a passion. And as you said earlier, you didn't do it for the money, you didn't do it for the fame, you didn't do it for the following. You've done it because you enjoyed it. And the irony is, off the back end of that, you've gained a big following, celebrity status in a roundabout way, I would say. You've got a great network. You're clearly making money from it, and you're living a great life. The responsibility that comes with 1.3 million followers, because I sometimes think about this myself, it's almost like, be careful what you wish for. I wish, wrong word. I'm planning to have a big following, because I know I can inspire people through the podcast, and some of that I can monetize into the art world or whatever else. So yeah. I do want a big following, but there will be a downside to it, which is massively. The haters, the trolls, the naysayers, the people that try and ridicule you. And I'm just asking you this question quite bluntly. I mean, how do you get that? And how do you deal with that? How do you deal with people, being nasty to you online?
Well, you see, I don't know, I read an article a year or so ago about like a lot of people from different reality TV shows, once they go from not being known by anyone to going on it and then becoming famous straight away. They think they're everything. They're wearing all these fancy clothes and, you know, they're getting invited to all these parties and they're getting all these brand deals. And then that dries up after a year or two when the next season comes on or the season after comes on and they haven't reinvented themselves in another way or got onto another show. And then they get really depressed and commit suicide potentially and things like that. I think that's because they haven't actually done anything that they are really proud of or pursued something that they have a massive passion for, or they've got a skill or something that they're working on. And in the process of getting all those things that they desired, they actually lost a lot of meaningful things in their life. So it left them kind of with nothing because they have maybe their friends and their family that mean something to them, but their family, they just push to the side. Their friends, they push aside because they feel like they've outgrown their friends and their family are just knew them for who they were before or whatever. And then they're left by themselves. And then because they change who they are, because they want to be something bigger and better, they actually lose themselves and they can't look themselves in the mirror because they've tried to become successful. And then that's all fine when you've got all these people around you saying, you're amazing, you're all this. When they stop doing that, they're faced to look themselves in the mirror again with no one else to turn to. And they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel like they've got anything to live for. And that's why they start getting depressed and commit suicide and do things like that, which obviously is very extreme, but it does happen, especially nowadays. Like a lot of people are going through different struggles with different things. So I'd say like, it's not about trying to get millions of followers and just having the number to be impressive. It's like about why you're doing it and focus on that why, and that why will get you there. And because then you'll have a reason. You won't be like, do you know what? I want to get millions of followers. I will get it. It's like, okay, having the number and just chasing the number is good because you'll figure out ways to do it. But when you get there, you'll be like, damn it, do you know what? Instead of having 5 million followers, let's say, as the number on Instagram, I've got, instead of 5 million followers and no one's like specific, like really loyal to me and love what I do, they just follow it because I've built the number. Like, you want to get people that really believe in what you do and it makes a difference and it does some change. And that's one of the things that I'm really proud about, is that obviously I pursue my passion, you're pursuing your passion, and you're using the skills that you've taken from other things and building it into your passion. So you're going to be fine. And when you build that up, it's just going to get bigger and better, and you're going to get more opportunities, more exciting guests, loads of different things. But just stay true to that and keep that, and ask the questions that you think are going to inspire people. And you'll just get that naturally, I think, from the model that you are building, through people who have achieved certain things and going to be able to share their stories and inspire people. So I think that's great. And that's one thing I'm proud of, is like, I promote like healthy, active lifestyle and like dedication, hard work, and also just like trying to inspire kids all the time to like express themselves and be confident. So one thing Dan was saying as well, when he was a kid, he was super shy, but when he did boxing, it built his confidence. For me as well, I was a very shy kid, started doing freestyle, and when I learned skills and people were impressed by those skills, I'm like, what, you're impressed by something that I've done? And that made me feel confident. And just not forgetting that I can be that guy to inspire kids to go from that to being confident. So I've got a lot of purpose with what I do. So just have a lot of purpose with it. Don't forget that. Don't ever feel like you're too big for that, because when you start neglecting that, you're going to be going down the wrong path, and it's not all for you. And it's easy to think, because loads of things are coming to you when you get success and you get followers. It all comes to you and you're like, yeah, I'm doing this. Tomorrow I'm filming with Messi. Next day I'm doing a Nike shoot. Next day I'm flying to the other side of the world for a competition. Then I'll fly back, get invited to this thing. It's all free, whatever. Getting paid, lots of money. All right, this is great. But the reality is, like, that stuff doesn't matter too much. It's just about what your reason for doing it, purpose, and now I'm at a stage where I'm giving back. I feel like you're at that stage as well. Like, you want to give back a lot, but through your content, you can grow whilst doing that. And that's even better. Like, the bigger you grow, the more you can share and the more impact you have on the world. I think that's like, don't forget that, because then you just keep getting bigger and bigger. And that's what I try and do. Like, I don't really care about being more well known. In fact, I think I'm at a level now where, say I walk down Oxford Street for like a mile or whatever, like maybe like 5 people recognize me or something like that. That's like a perfect amount to be. I think any more than I got now is gonna be maybe a bit hard, but I don't want to just stop the growth, So it's kind of a difficult stage now. I feel like I'm at sometimes, but I try not to worry about it. I try not to monitor the views I'm getting on videos as much. I still check it because it's like a sign of what's working and what's not working in terms of like my content, inspiring people. And obviously there's the business side of things, but I just try and have as much fun with it. And just be like true to myself with it, I'd say.
Good man. I asked Dan Morley, this final question, I asked all my guests, which is this. I come up with a mantra when I was younger, when I had my first company, which goes like this: be happy, never content.
Okay.
Now I've got my own reason why I come up with that mantra. I've built a gym in my house outside and in part of the garden, and even up on the stencil above the doorway, it says "Be happy, never content." I know what that means to me. If I was to ask you, Andrew Henderson, what does "Be happy, never content" mean to you?
Be happy, never content. I would say, like personally, like how do I feel happy? And like, no, I mean, that's definitely a truthful sort of statement. I think like something that I honestly, personally, when I hear that, it might sound negative, but I feel like a struggle. Like I feel like that is the struggle that I go through is being happy and never content, because I almost like, it's almost like the opposite for me. No, obviously I want to always be happy, but sometimes being happy, like I could definitely be a lot happier if I was more content, because I'm not content with things. And that's what drives me. That's what pushes me. I'm never like happy. Like, you know, I win a 5-time world championship. I won the first world championship. That was my lifelong dream. I wanted to be the best in a sport that I loved. I achieved that when I was 19. I was depressed for 2 months after. I'm like, right, I better win all the other major championships. Won all them, depressed. I want to be the best ever, 5-time world champion. Won all that, depressed after. All right, let's go fight in MMA. You've always wanted to do that. All right, cool. Had your MMA fight, smashed the guy straight away. After, I'm like, man, this is always the same. I'm never content. I just want more. And that's hard to be happy. So I always try I just sit in a dark room, and I just like, sometimes when I feel down like that, I just sit in a dark room and just, okay, no phones, nothing, just relax, start thinking about things. It all just comes back to what I was saying earlier about when I recovered from that leg break, overcoming that adversity, and then just the appreciation I had for being able to walk again and being grateful. So I'm like, okay, that's great. You just be grateful for everything. Think back to all these things and think when you started. Imagine like, you know, being a kid again and thinking you're going to do all these things, travel to all these places, meet all these people. Like you'd be just like so over the moon with all that. And now you can put that into other people and give them that chance. People that maybe, you know, from a small town somewhere, never going to amount to anything. And you can change their lives just through the words and the things that you've done. Like, okay, then it's like, all right, not being content. Okay, now that makes sense. Now I'm happy. So I think it's like a struggle with my own mind. That's what I feel like when you say it.
It is a bit of a paradox, and I'm exactly the same as you. You know, if I was more content, I would probably feel a bit more like happier in a roundabout way, because you know, I feel like I've got everything and everything's kind of a doddle. But the reality is, as go-getters, as entrepreneurs, as athletes, you know, you always want to push yourself, and that means there's a struggle, there's being uncomfortable, but that's the only way you're ever going to feel ultimately happy, because you're reaching other targets. So 100%. I think it was a beautiful answer. So listen, you've been an absolute superstar guest. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for putting up with me badgering you all the time.
No, it's been a pleasure.
And Andrew, I feel a bit bad, but I feel like
you got a football. Let's do it.
It would be. I would feel silly if you walked out of here and I didn't ask you just to do something with the ball next
problem.
time.
I got you, man.
Perfect.
On the spot.
Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and always remember to be happy, never content, and follow YouTube channel. Thank you very much. So I was going to ask you to do so.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah, is that right?
100%.
Cool.
Man. Let's do it.
Hey, you're pretty good, soul spoon. Don't include me.
Okay.
Don't include me. Don't include me.
You go get ready for the pod.
Oh, sorry. That came out a bit hot.
Oh!
Like the tricks, but far too risky.
Any head tricks?
Entrance out.
Here we go.
Fucking hell.
Yes.
Reverse.
All about spin, yeah?
And the good kick. Won't be able to make you hit like that when you get to my age. You will.
What do you mean? He's 50.
Oh.
Aye.